911, what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hi, everybody. I hope everyone's having a good Thursday night. I'm sorry that I missed doing a live stream with everyone tonight, but I was watching my Arizona Wildcats lose the Sweet 16 game. And yeah, it is what it is. It's madness in March, and I love them no matter what. And so go Clemson. Anyway, yeah, so I decided that I would hop on here and do a quick video. I wanted to talk about a few things and kind of give my take on some of the stuff that has gone on this week in the court filings and so forth in the case. As most of you know, I'm getting ready for surgery, and my surgery is going to be the 16th of April. And so I've been really super busy. I'm trying to get some things done here around the house, get stuff in place. So I know that first week to 10 days after my knee replacement, it's going to be kind of weird, you know, trying to get all the things done that need to be done. So with that being said, I've just been super busy. And even through all of that, the Delphi case is never far from my mind. I'm always really thinking about the case and where we are, how things are going. And I think there's a lot of misperception out there. You know, people have their own opinions and they're entitled to them. And I don't ever really want to come across as someone who, you know, bashes people for having certain opinions about this case. But one of the things that I will say is that I feel that the evidence that's been portrayed so far in this case is pretty strong circumstantial evidence. And we've said before, when you have things that add up and start stacking up and layer up in no uncertain terms, for lack of a better word, it starts becoming almost impossible to refute it. So, again, it's mere speculation on all of our parts. We have not seen all the evidence. We are not part of law enforcement and the investigation into this case. And for us to even pretend that we have that knowledge or that we know for sure or certain what's going to happen, that kind of just leaves a distaste for me, because frankly, it really doesn't matter what we think or how we feel about the case or what's going on with it. One way or another, what's going to matter is the 12 individuals that are chosen to sit on that jury and hear the evidence in open court and go to that jury room and, deliberate together and talk about the evidence that they saw and come to a conclusion on guilt or innocence. And that hasn't happened. Do I think we're going to get there? Yes. I definitely feel that this case is going to go to trial. In all honesty, I just don't see him pleading. And the reason I don't is for really matter of factly, just because he only has to convince one juror that he's innocent and he's done. I mean, that case is done. And that's, they'll come back with a hung jury and that will be it. And they'll have to redo it. They'll have to redo the case. And I know we've talked about this before, but there is a lot of money that is involved in our judicial system, right or wrong. These types of cases, and especially cases that have the potential to be death penalty cases, are extremely expensive to try. And ultimately, that burden lies on the county involved, that is seeking the charges and the conviction. The state can step in and help with that, but ultimately it comes down to the counties. And when you have a small county of just under 20,000 people, that's not a county with a lot of revenue that can sustain a case like this. So the state of Indiana has stepped in and helped with some of this. But as we saw, Fran Gold denied the defense's ask for additional funds for the expert witnesses for Richard Allen. There's a lot of talk out there right now because the defense team has actually started crowdsourcing or crowdfunding to try to raise money for his expert witnesses. I've had a lot of email this week, you guys. My email has blown up surrounding the case for just a number of different reasons. But a couple of the emails that I got was, Kristin, what do you think about the crowdsourcing or the funding of this by asking the public to pay for it? Quite frankly, my feeling is that Richard Allen needs the best possible defense that he can get. That's what I want. Because I want a fair trial. I want it to be not just appear to be fair, but to actually be fair, because that is what we all are afforded under the Constitution. But with that being said, from everything that I've been able to research and look at, it's really not uncommon for this kind of thing to happen. It does happen in many cases. We just never hear about it. And especially in cases where the defendant is being represented by a public defender. So how do I feel about it? It doesn't bother me. If there's people out there that want to give their money to his defense, more power to them. Um, the first thought that came to mind is there are so many other causes out there that would be worthwhile to me, over and above that one. But I get it that there's people out there, that's what they want to do. So let them do it. Um, the pay to, I think it's called, hold on a second. I looked it up and I had, Bees 9 sent me an email regarding it. And by the way, if you're watching Bees, I will get back to you. I just haven't had chance. Yeah, Pay It To is the name of the company that is doing the holding of the donations. And that company has confirmed that neither the attorneys representing Richard Allen nor Richard Allen himself will get any of this money that has been donated. This money is explicitly set aside for expert witness testimony. And they'll have to prove who that is and their credentials and so on to get any kind of a payout. It sounds like this Pay It To company does this kind of thing often. And, and that's how they operate. So more power to them. Again, there's a conception in this country that the more money you have, the better your defense is. And, and that may very well be true, but if, I feel like he needs to be able to defend himself of these charges. And so, yeah, he needs to have expert witnesses that can come in and testify on his behalf. And I don't feel because he is a public defendant in the need of a public defender that should be limited to him simply because the state or the county can't pay for it. I think what Fran Gull was doing and why she denied the motion for more money is she probably would like to know where the heck the money that's been allocated to them has gone if they don't have expert witnesses yet. And quite frankly, I would wonder that myself as to, what's going on. We know what they're making an hour and what they're allowed to bill. We know all of that from the beginning of the case. So those things are kind of limited as well when it's a public defender type situation. Brad Rosie and Andrew Baldwin cannot bill what they normally would bill a client for this type of a defense. They have to bill what the state has afforded them to allow under the public defender's situation. So, yeah, I mean, we could probably talk about that all day long about how there is a disparity among those accused of crimes based on income. And I guarantee you, we wouldn't be talking about white males. There are far other people out there that this affects, this type of thing we're talking about affects more than it is just your average white male. So I feel like my mind's kind of racing tonight. There's just so many things that I wanted to address, but that was kind of one of them because I know I had gotten emails, like I said, about it, and people were, questioning it and really wanting to know what the heck was going on. And I don't blame them. When you hear it and you don't know that that's something that's kind of normal, it's kind of, out there. So I'm going to try to go through some of these filings. Just give me a minute to open this stuff up because there's a lot. There was a filing today. it was the order on the expedited precipice for transcript. And on the order that was filed today, the word expedited had been crossed out, and it's just an order on precipice for transcript. Comes now the accused by counsel having filed his expedited precipice for transcript, and the court being duly advised in the premises now finds that this motion should be granted. It is therefore ordered that the hearing on motion for contempt held on March 18th, 2024 in the state of Indiana versus Richard M. Allen, cause number 08C012210MR000001 be transcribed in the normal course as the clerk and court staff in Carroll County just provided this motion. So she's basically saying, the court is basically saying, yes, you can have the transcript, which is something that they requested. And that she's ordered it to be transcribed by the court reporters. So there was another order or judgment of the court. The ex parte communication received from LGW, ordered, copied, and sent to counsel of record and the clerk of Carroll Circuit Court. So the letters just keep coming in, guys. People are writing the court. There was another one that was received, and this was to Francis Gull regarding cameras in the courtroom. And it reads basically, Honorable Francis Gull, I'm writing asking you to reconsider your denial of cameras in the courtroom in the Richard Allen trial. I understand you have been a proponent of cameras in the courtroom and that you were part of a pilot program for such. I want to say to you that I support cameras in the courtroom for all cases and feel it would give citizens a feeling that justice is being fairly served by our judicial system. I would like to share with you what I'm seeing in this case as to why I think cameras are so very important. I'm going to tell you each instance of what I have seen, how it made me feel, and why I hope to get clarity by watching this case in real time. Number one, it appears that Richard Allen went voluntarily to help in an investigation after the public was called upon to come forward to help police with any information that may help catch the perpetrators of a horrific crime. It appears he, like I, would have in the past wanted to help. What I have seen in response is that he was arrested with a PCA that appears to be falsified with no supporting documentation signed by a judge who appears to be so terrified that he recused himself from the case. This makes me feel all of my 62 years thinking that stepping forward to help the police is a very bad idea. I will now never step forward to help the police. I've told my children and grandchildren not to ever step forward, and that if they ever stopped by police to not speak, if they're ever stopped by police, not to speak with them. Ask for an attorney immediately. Aren't the police supposed to be our friends and protectors? Number two, it appears that the defense is being prohibited from being able to defend their client in a proper manner, and that their client, had they not come forward with their statement and memorandum, may very well not be alive today. It appears that a man who is by our Constitution considered innocent until being proven guilty was being mistreated and outright tortured as if he were a prisoner of war, yet has never shown violence of any kind. Even the Geneva Convention prohibits this kind of treatment of prisoners. As a regular citizen, this is terrifying to see and hear. Number three, it appears that law enforcement and the prosecution have destroyed evidence, falsified evidence, and obstructed justice by losing unbelievable amounts of interviews and other evidence needed for a fair trial. They have forgotten who and when they interviewed people, even going so far as to have lost the name of a professor who had pertinent information regarding third-person guilt. Fingerprints appear to have been lost. A bullet has magically appeared after a crime scene was thoroughly combed over by trained CSI. How does this happen? A citizen finds it. There is no chain of custody. How does this happen? How do we trust law enforcement and the prosecution? How horrific to have come forward to help and be sitting in prison, treated worse than a war criminal, yet much of what would prove I am innocent is missing or destroyed. Number four, with number three above in mind, how is it that the prosecution and law enforcement can continue to try to remove the defense when they themselves have what appears to have been committing perjury and obstruction of justice. Why is this? How can making an easy email mistake and having someone you trusted and consulted with in the past totally betray you compare with outright falsifying other people's testimony on a PCA and with intentionally hiding the name of sorry. Well, a man who has education in a subject that provides other more likely persons of interest. How can it be okay for this? Many interviews and evidence to be lost with no repercussions for the people who were negligent. Is this intentional? From my eyes as a citizen, it sure looks that way. Number 5, it appears that the parity that is supposed to exist in our justice system between those who have and those who have not the ability to pay for defense services is not being upheld in this case. I am not a rich person. It appears to me that were I arrested, I would not be able to expect a fair trial by having my defense paid in a timely fashion, nor for my defense to receive funding to provide expert witnesses on my behalf. Is our system only for those with great wealth to have a fair trial? How many other citizens are sitting in prison right now because they were denied what is supposed to be their right to fair and equal representation? I have found a whole new respect for those that defend the accused in court. They are making sure anyone accused is found guilty and incarcerated by facts, not fiction. I'm hoping you will rectify this by approving payment to Richard Allen's defense and that you will approve payment for expert witnesses so that there truly is parity in his defense. A proper defense should not have to be paid for by fundraising since we already have this right. In closing, I will share a bit about myself with you and something I experience in my teeny tiny business. I have a business in which I care for people's beloved family pets. In that business, I have cameras throughout the business so that pet parents can check on their pet 24/7. I have other cameras throughout the business showing that there is someone there doing what these parents entrusted us to do. I have seen other businesses such as mine refuse to use cameras because they don't want pet parents watching them. My answer to that is, if you are doing your job and if you are doing nothing wrong, why would you not give peace of mind to your clients? Your Honor, I'm asking you the same. Why would you not give the citizens of this country the peace of mind to see that our system, paid for by our tax dollars, is doing its job and that it can be trusted? I hope you will reconsider your approach to the cameras as well as making sure this is actually a fair trial. I want to have peace of mind that my country's justice system actually works to protect its people. At this point, I feel nothing but fear and sadness with what appears to be going on. Will I be next? Will one of my children be next? It is absolutely horrifying. Thank you for reading this email. I hope it provokes thought and that we will end up being able to see real justice in the end. Have a wonderful day. LGW, a loyal citizen of the United States of America. Please pardon my not signing my full name, but I'm scared of the repercussions of doing so. If you need it, it can be provided confidentially. It just keeps going on and on, you guys. These people keep writing letters and, putting this stuff out to the court. And I'm here to tell you, she's not going to do anything with their letters. This is mute. The thoughts and however they write their letters, that's fine and well and good. But I feel like people have really lost their mind. I do not believe that cameras in the courtroom are going to make a trial fair or not. In fact, I truly feel that cameras in the courtroom can very much be a detriment to the defense and to the defendant's right to a fair trial. Why do I say that? Because in the cases where there have been cameras allowed in the courtroom, there have been every kind of issue you can imagine. There are decorum orders from the court on how the media should go about showing these cameras and what they can and can't show. Obviously, they can't show any of the jurors or their faces, but they tend to look constantly or almost constantly at the defendant. And that can be perceived in a very negative way. And I just think it's very detrimental. And when it is detrimental, it's detrimental to the defendant, not to the prosecution. I also believe that when people know that they're on camera, especially when working or whatever, and in this type of an environment, it can lead to showboating and people wanting to put on a show or whatever for that camera. And it does, and it happens every day in courtrooms around the country where cameras are allowed. And I lived through the O.J. Simpson trial and followed it religiously. And I can tell you that it was a circus. It was a 3-ring circus because of the cameras that were allowed in that courtroom and the showboating that went on both sides, the prosecution as well as the defense attorneys. And, there's been talk that these types of cases can make or break a defense attorney's career. It can a prosecutor's as well. And so, they have that in mind. They know if they are being recorded and if they're being watched on camera by the public. And so that makes a difference in how they present themselves and they present their case. So I understand why Judge Gull has denied this motion. Yes, she did. She was a pilot judge in the state of Indiana in possibly allowing judges to allow cameras in their courtrooms. And from what I understand, she has been always for that. I think from what she has seen with this case and the social media craze around it, I almost call it a bloodletting type of case because it's like these people just want blood that follow this case. And the way they are constantly, if there's nothing to report or nothing to talk about, then they create their own news. And they go searching and looking for things to dissect and talk about. And the more inflammatory it can be, the better off. So I really think she's trying to stop that or curtail it to the best of her ability by denying the motion for cameras in the courtroom. I do not look for her to change her mind on that. And I was hoping upon hope that we all would get to watch and see for ourselves as well. But my stance on that is if you truly feel the need to be there, you truly feel that you are not going to trust what's happening in that courtroom, then by all means go. It's an open court. All you have to do is get there bright and early in the morning and stand in line every day to get a seat in the courthouse. Our courts in this country are open to the public. And they don't, even in a child's murder, even when the victims are underage, and the only people that have a dog in this fight are the family members that have been left behind. We need to remember that. They're the ones who get the seats first, as it should be. Delphi has a very small courthouse. It's a small courtroom in Carroll County, and they don't have enough seating for all the people that want to be there and all the people that want to see it. But yeah, by all means, go there. Get a seat. Watch it for yourself. If you're one of those people that are not going to believe the reporting that is going to go on after this case is done. I, for one, know a few people that will be in court, so I feel comfortable in believing what they're going to be reporting and what they're going to be talking about when the case is actually being adjudicated. So that happened today, and there was another. Hang on one second. Another request for recording of the court proceedings by news media, and it was dated March 12th, 2024 from Cindy Herbert of WTHR TV, and she denied it. She denied that request. So yeah, I just don't see her, I just don't see her changing her stance on this, quite frankly. Maybe if we hadn't seen all the antics that have gone on around the case, with the crime scene photos being leaked, emails being sent to felons, with pertinent information that should never be out in the public in an open case, by the defense attorneys. Um, you know, that with the whole trying their case and, in a Frank's motion that was 138 pages long, that was a joke. Um, it could have easily been summed up in 4 pages instead of 138, and it was basically, a memo to, in my opinion, instill what we have around this case right now, and that is 2 camps, the not guilty and the people who believe Richard Allen is guilty. And we haven't even seen all the evidence yet to be able to really come out and say that, for 100% certainty. And, I've followed this case for 7 years, and I never once came out publicly with anyone with a POI or anyone. In fact, I kept telling people we didn't know enough to have that feeling yet. And is there people that I was considering? Of course. But did I discuss it publicly? No. Why? Well, because I didn't feel that I had enough to put that out there, and that all it was going to do was just create controversy. And I didn't feel that that was what I was here for. Believe it or not, I don't mind debating this case with anyone. And I know there'll be some people that believe that that's not true, that I only want to talk to people who believe the same way I do. And that's not true at all. I want respect, when we discuss cases, back and forth from both sides. And because, again, the family members watch these live streams that we have and these videos that we make. And I don't ever want to do anything that's going to do more harm. And so, yeah, if I know that there's somebody out there that, has some sort of a reason other than justice for Abby and Libby to be doing what they're doing, it just puts me in a bad mood, and it gives me a distasteful, I guess, for their content or whatever it is that they might be doing. And it's very suspect. One of the things about this, Delphi community that I have learned, over the last 4 years, 2 on Reddit and 2 here on YouTube, is that you don't know who you can trust. And I want to talk a little bit about that tonight, with you, because there's just been so many things that have happened in the Delphi community with certain people where you feel like you know this person, and then all of a sudden, something else crops up and you realize that the person isn't anything that they portrayed themselves to be to you. And I went through this. When I first started my channel, and some of you who have followed me from the beginning know what I'm talking about, and who I went through this with. And it's not relative to bring all that back up again, but I just want to say that, that was my first experience. I was warned by many older, longevity, YouTube creators to be careful on the streets of this genre, on who you talk to, who you share information with, whether it be about cases or definitely personal information. And I did for a really long time. I really didn't talk about myself personally. I didn't talk about my family. I didn't talk about any of that because I was protecting them. I wanted to protect who they were, what what they're about, because just because I decided to put myself on YouTube and show my face and be a person on here doesn't mean that my family and my immediate family chose that for themselves. So I didn't really feel it was necessary to talk about all that. In the last 9 months or so, I've opened up a little bit more about them, and I've talked a little bit more. And of course, some of you who've watched my channel for a while know that my daughter is an occasional guest on my show. We've done cases together. We will continue to do so on my channel. It's something that I enjoy with her, and it's something that we can do together. But as far as the trust thing goes, I just want to put out there that everybody needs to really be careful. Be careful of who you think you know, because you really don't know any of these people. Just because you talk to them, maybe even daily on YouTube, doesn't mean that you know who this real person is. And I think we all fall into that trap, because just put yourself in the position of thinking about your favorite movie stars or your favorite rock and roll stars or country western stars or whoever it might be that's famous. Not that YouTubers are famous, but for God's sakes, we're not. But you know what I mean. We all have an idea about who that sports hero we love is, or who this person over here is. And we make all kinds of statements, especially when negative things come out about them. We'll say, oh, that can't be true. They would never do that. That's not like him at all. And then you start hearing more and more. It's not just one person, it's two people, and then three people. And before long, it starts to stack up. And I've always been told since I was a little girl, where there's smoke, there's fire. And when you continually are being accused of something by different people, you start to wonder if there's some validity to what it is that might be happening. We have seen this with all kinds of stars happen, and you have to apply it to YouTube as well. You just have to. There are many people out there that are professing to be who they aren't. They have their own agenda for why they're here, why they cover these cases, and especially those who only cover Delphi. They don't talk about any other case, and they jumped on the scene, late in the game, so to speak. You have to ask yourself, what is their ultimate goal of covering this case? Why are they here? What brought them here? Have they told you what brought them here? I think those things are important. And I think those are important questions for those of us who are not only content creators who make the content, but for those of us who are absorbing the content and watching it, for them to have an understanding. If you're doing a channel and it's supposed to be for jokes or fun or whatever, Tom Webster comes to mind. I love him, and when he reads the news or goes over the news, it's hilarious. And he tells you right off the bat what he's doing when he's doing this. He is not the same way when he's covering the murder of two children. Does he have some levity in his show? Of course he does. When we're discussing something as horrific as the murder of two young girls, there has to be some levity that's brought into the discussion at some point. Otherwise, we would all go crazy trying to cover this stuff, because it takes a toll, you guys. It certainly takes a toll on all of us, because we're constantly absorbing not only personal mail from people that watch and subscribe and all of that, but we're looking at everything that's been written. We're looking at the news media coverage. We're looking at different coverages for all different kinds of cases. And after a while, you as a sponge, it becomes overwhelming emotionally. There are people out here covering true crime that doesn't belong in the true crime community. And I think that you guys, as I think my subscribers who watch this, are very intelligent people who are in tune with true crime, have watched not only this case, but many other cases, and are aware how to tell when they see someone and how they're behaving and how they act, whether or not they may not be doing the best thing for themselves. Because there's just people who have serious mental illness issues that are not being addressed, that are in this community, that are talking about these cases. I believe that there's people in this community that shouldn't be here for whatever reason. You know, the mental illness issues. I think that some of these folks might even have secrets that they don't want people to know about themselves. We've got people in this community who are doing so much damage to the families on a daily basis, and they don't care because they don't feel they can be held accountable. And that in itself is sad. And I ask YouTube over and over again to do better, to really do better about policing the streets of YouTube. They have all of these great documents that they send to creators continually telling us their rules and their regulations for content. And yet, when someone is blatantly breaking those, blatantly doing it, and ethically doing it, I mean, it's just sickening. You can't get them to act, and you can't find people to listen. It's really difficult. As a paying YouTube member for their premium YouTube membership, which I have, I started doing that real soon in 2022 after I started my channel. I felt like, you know, I really it was in December when I decided to do it, and I think it was probably, I don't know, I want to say May, maybe when I got monetized is when because I got monetized in May of 2022. May of 2022 is when I was monetized. And I at that point decided that I was going to go ahead and do YouTube Premium. You would think even those people, those of us creators that are paying for that every month, that we would get a voice of a live person when we had something happen that we felt was important. And you know, the whole stuff that's going on, and I'm not going to get into it tonight because I really just don't want to call these people out anymore. It doesn't do any good, and all it does is cause them to attack. And I'm done with that part. I went through that the first year I was on YouTube, and I lived it on a daily basis, and I'm not going back there. This is about Abby and Libby. This is about the Patties. This is about Anna and her parents, and you know, the grandparents of Abby and the aunts and uncles of Abby and all the friends and family members of the girls who live this nightmare every single day without them. And then they have to listen to this crap that's going on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and Reddit and all these places. And every time you turn around, there's a new a Reddit sub or something that's popped up and about Delphi. And a good friend who I listen to and respect so much in this community, who's an anonymous content creator, told me a long time ago that, you know, Delphi's a mess because of this craze, bloodlust that's around it, and the mental illness that is living underneath the topsoil, basically, of this community. And for that reason, after Richard Allen was arrested and this person saw all of the evidence that was presented, said, this case is a done deal. This guy did this. He's going to be convicted. they've got what they needed. We need to move on and cover other cases. Let's not get in the midst of all the drama. And so, for the last 9 months, since I had my surgery in August, I have really tried to cut back on covering Delphi every single night that I was on live. I was going live back then 3 nights a week, and I was like talking about stuff to, nauseum, because it was like there wasn't anything to really talk about. There's been so much to talk about now because of everything that's been going on with the defense and the stuff that the perception that's out there that Richard Allen's not getting, treated well, and all these other things. And it is a perception. We have had, the warden was in court in June of 2023, and he was asked directly by the court and by the state, what's the condition that he's being held in? And he said he's being treated no differently than anyone else that would be held. And True Crime Web, Steve from True Crime Web did a live stream a week or so ago. Go look for it, where he shows the inside of a county jail and the inside of a prison and who gets the better treatment. And I'm here to tell you, it's not the county jail people. And most county jails do not have the availability of having mental health there on site to help. They don't have the availability for medical if needed, all those things that people need services while they await trial. And I know people are like, well, this is unfair. This guy's not been proven guilty. I get all that. I do. But come on. He's been arrested. There's a probable cause document out there. And people that continue to say the probable cause has issues, the court has said no. The court has said no. Now, what does that mean? That means that if you don't agree with that, then wait for the appeal. Because there is no doubt in my mind, 125%, that this case, no matter what, unless he is acquitted, it will be appealed if he is convicted. There's an automatic appeal if the death penalty ever comes out into play and goes on the table in this case. There's an automatic appeal. That automatically happens in every death penalty case. We don't know if Nick McClelland is going to use the death penalty. He hasn't yet. He has up until the trial to bring it to forbear. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But it is something that he has in his arsenal that he can use, because what Richard Allen has been charged with is a death penalty offense in the state of Indiana. And that's all that matters. It's what's going on in the state of Indiana. It doesn't matter what's happening here in Illinois where I live, or in Florida where you live, or New York where you live, or wherever it is you may be from. You have to go with the laws according to the state of Indiana. Now, yes, there are U.S. Supreme Court laws as well, but the crux of the matter is that every state has their own laws, and those laws have to be abided by. So yeah, there's just been a lot of stuff going on, and a lot of these motions, and I've said it before to all of you that what we're seeing is not unusual. This is what happens in our justice system. If you don't put it in a motion, it never happened. It's as if it never occurred, because a motion makes it onto the court's record, the trial record, however you want to put it, whatever you want to put. It's like taking a picture of it, and it's forever embedded into the file of the trial. And if you don't file the motion, it's like it never happened. So for all the motions to be happening, and people are like, God, they file so many motions, and this is such a, whatever. The defense is doing their job. They're doing what they're supposed to do for Richard Allen. They are supposed to try and get this man off from these charges and defend him. The thing I have the problem with them is not that. The problem is that they're not focused on Richard Allen. They're focused on themselves, and they have been for over a year. And that's the way I feel about it. If they thought anything about their client, and if they really wanted a speedy trial, they would have demanded it within 70 days of his arrest. If they really believe this man is innocent, they should have had him in court within 70 days. That's what his U.S. Constitution affords him. And they didn't do it. In fact, they waited until August of last year for him to even sign the documents for a speedy trial, and then they didn't file them with the court. Again, signing the documents like it didn't happen if you don't file them with the court. The Supreme Court of Indiana asked the defense team, why do you have these signed documents for a speedy trial, and why have they never been filed? The Supreme Court called them out on that. And their response was, well, Your Honors, they were utilizing the speedy trial as strategy. No, that is not what the speedy trial is for. It's not used as strategy, and you're going to pull it out whenever you think it might be beneficial to you. That's what I meant when I said that Judge Gull got sick of the BS and she called him on it. So she set the trial for May. And that's where we are. And I do not see her changing it. I know there are people out there that believe we won't be in court in May, but I don't see her changing it, you guys. At this point in time, I just don't see it happening. She's denied and denied and denied these continuances that the defense team is now begging for because they don't have the time, or they haven't had the time to do this and this. Why were you screaming for a speedy trial? Do you see the point here? It is contradictory. On one hand, you want a speedy trial, but on another hand, you want to continually ask for continuances or say that you don't have the time because it's the prosecution's fault. It's the state's fault now. The defense, the reason they can't have a speedy trial is because of the state. All of a sudden, it's the state's fault. Where were they 10, 15 months ago? Why weren't they complaining and harassingly saying that it was the state's fault back then? It's tactics, guys. This is all tactical. And people call it lawyering. Call it whatever you feel like calling it, but that's what this is. They're tactical moves. Listen to the attorneys that stepped in for Rozzy and Baldwin when they were taken off the case briefly. And if you listen to Libredo talk in his quote unquote interview, he says that he firmly believes that Richard Allen will be given a fair and just trial. And for him to get it in the state of Indiana, he is before the right judge to make sure that happens. And that's all she's been trying to do, is to make sure that Richard Allen is getting a fair and just representation. Now, for the people that keep writing these letters, I don't know what they think they're going to get out of that. But, she's just laughing probably and going, here, file this in the record. I mean, it's never going to be discussed. It's not going to be, anything, whether she reads them or not. She's not going to react to something like that. That's not how this works. Our justice system is not set up that way. It's not like going to a city council meeting and giving them your opinion and hoping the city council takes it under advisement and comes back and rules in your favor. It's not what's going on here, you guys. It's just not. And it's not how it's supposed to work. And it's become a circus. And that's why these individuals that are doing this, they're the reason that she is not going to allow this court case to be televised. So, take that to thought for what it's worth. But I just wanted to come on here and really, give that information to you guys, talk to you a little bit about the things that I've been thinking. I do want to bring something up. I posted it on my community page before I did this recording, and I just want to say, last Friday night, I was asked to be a guest on Ruckus Rock's live stream. I think highly of Ruckus. I think highly of Frank Meister. You guys know that. I wouldn't be collabing with people if I didn't. And something happened on that show that has been completely blown out of the water by certain people, I guess. I don't follow these people. I don't watch them. I don't know who they are. I don't know how many people are part of their channels. I don't know any of this stuff, you guys. I don't even know their names. I don't know their handles. I don't know anything about them. And that is the truth. I was watching, we were on the live stream. I was watching the chat. Somebody posted in the chat about there being a blank porn star on The Unraveling. I saw it and I blurted it out because it's what I read. And if you go back and you watch it, it wasn't me calling it. I asked a question. So there's a porn star on The Unraveling question. That's how it sounds. I was asking a question. And then Ruckus and Frank Meister obviously knew what was being talked about that I didn't know was being talked about. I started laughing because I was very uncomfortable and I didn't know what else to do. A lot of times that's what I do is I laugh. And I started laughing. I didn't know who they were talking about. I still to this day really don't know who they're talking about, except that there's a female person on this show. And that's who they were speaking of. I want to say I would never shame or talk badly about another woman, and I would never do it on a live stream. That is just not who I am. People who follow me know that about me. I very rarely call people out on YouTube, even the bad people, the people who are out there hurting the families on a daily basis. I very rarely call them out by name. So I would never do that. So I apologize if that was what came across to this person. I'm very sorry. I have nothing against anybody who works in any industry, whether it be the sex trade or the sex movie trade, whatever. If that's what they choose to do with their lives, fine, whatever. I'm not going to use that as fodder and content to make people make fun of somebody. Trust me, I know what it's like to be made fun of. It happens on a daily in this genre. You have to have big shoulders. I've often said that. If you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to be a person who is doing what I'm doing right now, you have to be willing to take that kind of abuse. People absolutely attacked me for my weight, being an old woman that didn't know anything. I had been called everything under the sun, whether it be in comments on my videos. I've had videos made about me. I've had, all of it. Here I am. I really don't care what people think because it's not why I'm here. I'm not here to be a celebrity. I'm not here to be people's friends. I'm here because I feel these stories need to be told and I feel they need to be covered, and it helps to bring justice to do so in a ethical, truthful, and factual manner. And I try desperately to adhere to that, and I have, and I will continue to do so. I am very thankful to everyone who watches my channel, who is members of my channel, and who donate their time and their expertise to help me with my channel, whether it be coming on as a guest and talking about things, or just being a subscriber who sits out there and listens to me as I go over this stuff. I appreciate all of that. I never once thought that that would happen for me. I didn't really think people would care what I thought, but obviously they do. And I just wanted to put that out there. So I appreciate all of you who subscribe and are members to Behind the Crime Door. I really do. I want justice for Abby and Libby. It's why I'm here. It's the only reason that I'm here. And it's what brought me into true crime as a YouTuber. And I have covered other cases, and I will continue to cover other cases. And I will also follow Delphi to the end. I want to see this case solved, and I want to see this case finished for Becky, for Mike, for Kelsey, you know, for Derek, and you know, for everybody who loved these little girls that they no longer have. And, you know, it's not about me. It's not about you. It's about them. And it's about their justice. We can do a lot of damage in the YouTube community, more so than we could ever imagine. And I think this case is going to really shine a light on that, about the things that people were allowed to do and how they were allowed to insert themselves into a case they didn't belong in doing so. I still find it amazing that people were on the stand testifying in a case they had no hand in, and they don't even live in the state, and they weren't even here. And we've had a person who actually unlived themselves over this case and what happened in this case. And I think that we need to step back and really think about that. Because to me, that's tragic. Abby and Libby was tragic enough, but to know that there's another person out there that took their life over this case and what happened is just sad. And you know, people are like, well, you can't prove that's why they did that. Well, with everything that transpired, I think we can pretty much assume that that's exactly what happened, especially given the fact that the person had a exemplary career in the military, and he knew what was coming because of what he had shared. And he couldn't, I don't think he could deal with that. And I can see why. I mean, I totally and absolutely can see why. But just remember, there are people out there that are willing to manipulate you. We've talked about the narcissists before. We've talked about some of these people that live amongst us. You know, whether it be the serial killer types, or whether it be the types that are just predators that prey on women, prey on young girls, prey on whoever. They're on the streets of YouTube, you guys. They're out there. They're amongst us. And we need to be careful. We need to really be careful and pay attention, and be careful with what you share. I just want everybody to be safe and to be careful. And I will talk to you all very soon. I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Easter is upon us on Sunday. Tomorrow is Good Friday. I want everyone to take the time, whether you're Christian or not, or believe or not. Will you please take the time to do something kind for someone this weekend, and do it in the honor of the girls? You know, if you don't do anything else and you follow this case so closely, do some good with it. But that's all I'm going to say. Thank you for watching. Good night, everybody.